And for the attrition plan of Brennan, game 1 looks to it's got some good news. His opponent's down to 5 cards for this game. We'll see if Jose can hang, though.
5-card hands are a lot easier to break up with just one lightning bolt or one fatal push. Notably, DeCandio's deck does not have much in the way of closing speed.
Yeah, it's very slow. But it's got a lot of, you mentioned that 1 mana, and I hadn't seen it from the last time. He does have 12 1-mana spells, more than I was giving it credit for. Birds from Jose Martinez, Thoughtseize from Brennan. Let's see those last 3. Gavany Township, Verdant Catacombs, and then the card you're going to take, Duskwatch Recruiter.
Yep. Down to just lands and a Birds of Paradise.
So, this is what you'd expect would happen, I think, with a 5-card hand, that he'd run out of resources almost immediately. But can Brennan close? You know, he'd love to have, say, a turn 2 Grim Flayer here. That'd just be ideal.
So, we've seen Brennan previously struggle to get to Delirium.
Yeah. Well, just like something he can do in the meantime. This is where a Jund deck would say, if we were watching traditional Jund, they'd make Dark Confidant this turn, and then you just say, all right, that's game over.
Right.
Brennan, outside of these 2 Grim Flayers, doesn't do much for a while. You know, what a Faithless Looting is kind of where he goes.
You can have turn 2 Young Pyromancer, and that can spiral a little bit.
Now, Martinez did draw a 3-drop off the top, Kitchen Finks. That's very welcome here.
Yeah. It applies some pressure, a little bit difficult to fight through.
Yeah. I like it quite a bit. Tap land for Brennan and a pass. No 2-drop. He'll take damage. You always got to watch out for that top of the deck. And looks like another 3 from Martinez. Magus of the Moon main?
I see.
Yeah, he has 2 Magus main. Oh, my goodness. He's going to steal it. It's going to happen.
Better draw a lightning bolt, Brennan.
Brennan does have some basics. They are the Jund set of basics. He has a forest and a swamp, but he doesn't have them in play. He can't fetch from.
Yeah, he has 3 mountains is what he has.
And when he gets 7 lands, he can cast this Bedlam Reveler. He's down to 8. It was how tilted would you be? Because look at Jose's lands, okay? Just a guy's like, what are you going to draw off the top? You're like, Magus of the Moon. You're like, what? He has Swamp, Temple Garden, Swamp,
Gavany Township, just like a utility land. Casting Blood Moon.
Burst down to 3 on the swing. Oh my goodness. This is so good.
So I enjoyed watching Brennan's deck grind through a grounded
Pick him
deck,
up.
but not nearly as much as I enjoyed watching Brennan do nothing.
Brennan, his face has so much more composure than mine would have right now. I'd either be raging off or just be saying literal nothing. Just nothing at all. Silently sideboarding.
I'll tap my Birds of Paradise on my green land. Blood Moon you. Oh.
Well. Especially he had the Thoughtseize too.
I did everything I could have done.
I think I would say probably something a lot like, I guess this is a bad matchup. I would just say that. Stone face.
Not as close as I thought.
Well, Jose gets game 1. We're going to look at some sideboard options when we come back in just a minute. Well, we enter the sideboarding for Brennan DeCandio. He really likes the modern format. He's just telling us that, how excited he is.
He's a big fan.
Okay, so Ryan, you're sitting in Brennan's seat. And that just happened. So, how many Magus of the Moons do you think are in your opponent's deck now? Like, what's going on? You don't get the deck list.
I assume it's not many. There's no way it's 4. Question. So I saw a Kitchen Finks. I saw a Gavany Township. I assume they're comboing. I have a pretty good read on what's in the deck, except for the Magus of the Moons throwing me off. But the stuff that's good against the deck's still generally good, and sometimes I'm going to get cheesed.
All right, so removal spells, right? So Engineered Explosives, Collective Brutality, Shriek Maw, Maelstrom Pulse. Anything else?
That's pretty much what I'd be looking at. Golgari Charm actually figures to be pretty good in the matchup.
Kills Vizier?
Kills Vizier. There's a heavy Birds of Paradise Noble Hierarch draw.
Yeah.
It can be really impactful.
So you can't actually use Golgari Charm to break the combo, right? Because once the Vizier hits the board, it's just mana. They still get infinite green.
Yeah, you have to cover the Devoted Druid otherwise.
Yeah. So you can go toward those. I assume he wants to move away from cards like Lingering Souls, maybe? Just these value engines?
Yeah, Lingering Soul is not great in the matchup. It's flying creatures, that's fine. Sometimes they have to attack you, but it's pretty mopey.
All right, game 2. Brennan starts by Bauble. Mishra's Bauble targeting himself. land, pass, draw.
There is a basic forest and a basic swamp available to Brennan in his deck.
I'm getting them. I'm getting those.
Probably want to get that stuff online.
I hate losing to Blood Moon. That's why I do it all the time. But yeah, I just get so much. Oh man, so many memories of just my lands becoming mountains. Yeah,
one of the
Brennan gets the basic right away.
One of the most satisfying things for me as a Grixis player is when I can just sniff out that my opponent's Blue Moon on turn 1 or 2.
You start getting basics.
Yeah, like that's so satisfying when you read that correctly. But when you play
decks, you can tell
decks,
in their body language because they're smug about it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like fetch for basic island.
You're playing Blue Moon.
Cast the Serum Visions.
He just can't help himself right there. Like I'm going to get you. Devoted Druid turn 2 by Jose. Brennan, I love this setup. So he has Faithless Looting and Grim Flayer. So if he needs a removal spell for this Druid, he can Grim Flayer, chop the top cards of his deck, looting into the removal spell and cast it, which is very nice.
Yeah, it's a good setup. Gets to see a lot of cards on the way there. Couple more lands in the hand. I think Bedlam Reveler hiding at the far end. Yeah, this is one thing about just the existence of Magnus of the Moon and these kind of effects is his first 2 lands were Swamp, Forest. These cards don't play great with Bedlam Reveler.
Looting before attacks, making me think he already has the removal spell.
You'd hope so.
It would make sense. It discards 2 more lands. That brings him out to a Bauble and 4 lands in the yard. Not Delirium yet.
3 card types.
Yep.
It was Fatal Push.
Okay, there's 4. Grim Flayer swings for 4. Jose to 16. Brennan stacking the top 3.
Pretty good exchanges for Brennan so far in this game.
Would love to see a Traverse. If Brennan can find one here. Remember, he also has a Bedlam Reveler in hand. He bins a Young Pyromancer and a land, keeping 1 card on top.
Don't really need more threats. Pretty light on cards as well, so Young Pyromancer is generally not great.
Spell count, just 2 in the graveyard, so we're a ways off Reveling. Walking Ballista for 1 by Jose. That is not going to do much.
No land either.
Yeah, big miss. We'll see what Brennan kept. Didn't get a great look at it. Something green.
So game 1, Brennan wasn't really able to play, and kind of seeing the other side of that is Jose has some mana woes here.
Fair enough. I think that is a Traverse.
It's tough to be so light on mana in a deck with 8 mana creatures. But these things do happen.
If you had something like Druid, Vizier, Duskwatch in your opener, you're just going to keep it. Even with no white, only 2 lands, it's hard to, that's what your deck does. It's hard to get away from it.
Yeah, if you're just off that 1 land.
Or I guess maybe not Duskwatch, maybe it was like Vizier, Druid, Ballista.
Yeah, you see Ballista is
kill.
available. Yeah.
Traverse, that was the card Brennan left on top, and he has Delirium, so he can get any creature or land.
And these...
I want Bloodbraid Elf, unless he's got a great Silver Bullet.
These mid-range decks kind of put you in the squeeze, too. Whereas you know that hand's probably getting broken up even if you hit the correct colors of mana, but also just mulliganing is very punishing in these matchups.
Brennan has a much better play than Bloodbraid Elf, though it's boring, it's very good. He's just going to get his 2nd copy of Grim Flayer. And you can see why. Grim Flayer, that one's going to hit Jose down to 12. Chop some more cards in the graveyard if Brennan wants any of them. Brennan will make a second 2-mana 4/4 and just close out quickly.
It's like there's a Faithless Looting in the Shriekmaw at the top. I think the one he's thinking the most keeping would be Shriekmaw. Liliana Last Hope, the other one.
Yeah. The other thing, he's going to keep Last Hope, get rid of Shriekmaw, Faithless Looting. He's up to 4 spells in the graveyard, so he also has enough mana for Bedlam Reveler next turn.
Liliana the Last Hope in general is just excellent in matchups like this.
Yeah, Jose's deck's plenty of X1s. That checks.
Magus of the Moon at the front of Jose's hand. Not going to be one of those games. not only is Brennan just very far ahead, but he's got his 2 basics.
Yeah, Jose, he has the Magus, but yeah, it just passes back. So Brennan should be able to clean this one up. Liliana on top. Land in hand. You can actually cast both. You can cast Liliana and Bedlam Reveler. Don't mind if I do. Swing with both Grimflayers. Remember, they have Trample, so Jose's block doesn't do much. And top 6, Brennan would love to just get all the cards into the graveyard. If he gets up to 6 instants in the graveyard, he can cast both cards in his hand.
Yeah, and I think he's looking at 3 such card types. There's Thoughtseizing Lightning Bolt at the bin.
Yeah, Traverse. So thought, yeah. And this should be easy enough for Brennan to clean up. Shocks down to 12, casts Liliana the Last Hope, leaves both his red up. Planeswalker, assumes gonna kill the Walking Ballista. That'll shoot Liliana back down to 3. And last card is Bedlam Reveler. Why don't we, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instants. Let's draw 3 cards.
Reasonable.
Go. And we're gonna, speaking of go, we're gonna go to game 3. Jose discards to hand sizes. All right, I'm gonna make you show me.
Yeah, see if we can figure it out.
All right, Brennan runs that one in and really runs him over. I like Jose's keep. Like I said, I assume there's a Vizier in there, so like it does have the turn 3 kill. It's missing on white. It's missing on a lot of things, and because Brennan's such a disruptive deck, you keep that hand, you kind of know that it may not work, but it's probably still keep it.
Yeah, it certainly didn't work out.
No. So we're going to go to a quick game 1 for Jose, a quick game 2 for Brennan. We'll be back with game number 3 in just a minute. So game 3, Jose back on the play. We talked about Brennan's sideboarding, all the removal. Can you counter removal? Let's look at some of the things Jose might be doing.
So the sideboard, we have 2 Fatal Push, 2 Sin Collector, 2 Scavenging Ooze, Soaring Silence. So the big ones are going to be less Sin Collectors and Scavenging Ooze. Exiling the stuff that Brennan can flash back.
Yeah.
Rest of the sideboard, you have some stuff for artifacts, enchantments, storms, your Reclamation Sage, your Kasali Pride Mage. Those aren't going to play here. Kataki obviously doesn't play. Eidolon Rhetoric, I think, is a little too cute.
Yeah, so I like...
Voice Resurgence is actually pretty good.
That was what I was going to ask. I like Sin Collect. I like Scavenging, as you mentioned. There's flashback cards. You can take Brennan off Delirium. That's kind of neat.
Creatures on both sides as well.
So you just got beaten down by 2 Grimflayers. Do you reach for Fatal Push?
I personally don't think so. For one, if you're familiar with the list, you saw the classic list last weekend. It's just 2 Flayers.
Yeah.
The other thing is...
3 Young Pyromancer.
Sure.
And we're not there. I'm not selling you.
Ultimately, you're just still trying to combo. You're trying to outvalue them. The more Fatal Pushes you draw, the less you're doing either of those things.
So game 1, Jose was a mull to 5 on the play and got him. He's a mull to 6 on the play right now for game 3.
Yeah, ultimately, it's just what is the matchup about?
Okay.
The matchup's not at all about Brennan's creatures. They're just not even a part of the game.
It's about Brennan's removal.
Right. He wins the game by stopping you from comboing and then incidentally somehow.
Yeah, what I liked about Grimflayer, yeah, Jose's going to go to 5 again, but he's done it once. What I like about Grimflayer is the closing speed. A lot of Brennan's threats, look at like Lingering Souls, they're just glacial. The fact that Brennan just 4-4 for 2 on turn 2, and then another 4-4 for 3 when he traversed for it on turn 3. That was very nice.
Yes. Yeah, he gets really cuts around really quickly that way. One thing, though, the last matchup we covered, Brennan, he was playing against a 3-color grindy deck, and that's just what Brennan's deck does.
That was so good.
You want to look more like Jund against this deck that outjuns Jund? No, I don't want the Fatal Pushes.
If you have a friend at home who just always plays Snapcaster Control and you just want to give him nightmares, go to our YouTube page and link the video of Brennan DeCandio versus Benjamin Nikolic. Okay, it is... Oh, man.
It's pretty disgusting.
If you want to see where Cryptic Command is nowhere near enough, that's your match. It's like every card Brennan played had a draw 2 attached to it that was like uncounterable. Jose keeping on 5, starts on a Forest. Brennan, Bloodstained Mire, basic Forest in hand, Bloodstained Mire in play, check. No, not going to get Magus this time.
It would take a Bird's Paradise in most situations to do it. Jose does have one stomping ground in the deck.
He didn't have red mana from game 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a delight. And Brennan's going to get both those basics again, so he has Jund set up. He doesn't actually have a basic Plains in his deck. The only real white card is the Lingering Souls. Yeah, I don't think
the deck
that's it.
Very lightly white. Also, Brennan correctly identifies that Plains is the weakest basic land.
That's weird. When you say that's the only white card, yeah, he's just like a Jund deck, but he's like Jund Delirium instead of regular Jund.
Amusingly, the deck that this evolved from, the Mardu Pyromancer deck that Jerry Thompson took second at the Pro Tour with, was able to just do most of its things off of red. And Brennan in this game is on Forest Swamp, casting Grimflayer.
Yeah, well, the Jerry Thompson Pro Tour deck also had Blood Moon in it.
Yes.
And that was one of the advantages there. Tron was very big at that Pro Tour, for example.
Yeah, whereas Brennan's deck is pretty cold to Blood Moon.
Yeah. I think you play Jerry's when you're trying to beat big mana, and you play Brennan's when you're trying to beat the decks that beat big mana.
Yes.
You're targeting something else. Jose, we'll see his first play at 3-drop is going to be Eternal Witness, getting back a fetch land.
All right.
You could do worse.
Online for turn 4 Collected Company.
Only one card type in Brennan's graveyard so far. Draws Bloodbraid Elf. I believe a second Bloodbraid Elf.
Eternal Witness is not a creature you generally want to throw a removal spell at. If the creature is get involved in combat and the Flayer doesn't have a Delirium yet, you do still get your trigger, but you do lose your Flayer.
Yeah, the trample over for 1. And now, if Brennan has no way to get Delirium or remove the Eternal Witness, he might do it anyway.
Yeah, looks like he has a Lightning Bolt. It's not a great target, but you do get to start setting up your draws with the Grimflayer and keep it around, which I think is worth it.
I'm probably in, but I understand where I'm not thrilled.
Yeah.
I'd love it if he had another Grimflayer than Lightning Bolt. That would just be all about that.
That is where you see Brennan is being taxed a little bit, because it is just 2 Grimflayers in the deck. Most of the other spells hard to cast with just Forests and Swamps.
Young Pyromancer, Swing, and Fatal Push because he cracked a fetch land. Brennan actually just had a great setup as he makes an Elemental and tramples over. It'll be for 2.
Yeah, you saw there, he did the Fatal Push after blocks. He'd prefer not to push the Eternal Witness.
So if Jose hadn't blocked, he just would hold on to it?
Right, so good sequencing there. It's the play he was going to make if there was a block, but gave himself the option to maybe not have to.
That's one of those things where I think in a savvy situation, you see Brennan played a pre-combat Young Pyromancer, and that should alert you. And be like, what's going on? And if you think about it long enough, you say, he has Fatal Push, and then once you realize he has Fatal Push, you say, I should block. Bloodbraid Elf, we're going to do it. There's a Shriekmaw, 2 Bloodbraids in Brennan's hand. Wow, and a Lightning Bolt. Now, as fun as it is to cast Bloodbraid Elf, you might have to leave up Lightning Bolt here.
Yeah, there's Collected Company mana. Anything could happen off that. Not having your removal spell up seems like a way to give away a game. He also has plenty of threats on the battlefield already.
He can flashback Faithless Looting and Bolt, so it's not like he's even wasting his mana. Instant sorcery land. Now, to be fair, Ryan, I would have liked to, if he's going to do that line, Faithless Looting, flashback pre-combat, and then tried to discard my way into Delirium.
Yeah.
That's like pretty minor. I guess you lose your sorcery, so you have to pitch. It's probably not happening. Brennan keeps 2 cards on top and puts Traverse in the graveyard.
I think the thing about it is that you're Faithless Looting no matter what on this turn.
Yeah.
You're representing 2 removal spells as you go into combat if you have this mana untapped, which is reasonable. But yeah, if you're going to do it anyway, taking that risk pre-combat makes some sense.
Flashes back Looting, gets another elemental. Jose was down to 10 on that swing. Draw 2, discard 2. Liliana can be in the graveyard. That'll work. So now he'll have Delirium on the Grim Flayer and will be, well, not lethal. I guess the Lightning Bolt probably makes it lethal.
Well, next turn he's setting up to cast Bloodbraid Elf with Lightning Bolt mana up.
Or
so
he was.
He's gone against that.
Yeah, those are both gone. So with Delirium enabled, Brennan has 8 damage on the board. And this is what I like, because Jose, if even if Jose companies, he cracks a fetch and goes to 9, Brennan can Lightning Bolt a creature, get an elemental, and he has exactly 9 power.
Not bad.
Yeah. So that means the bolt doesn't have to go upstairs. The clock's already there. I'm into it. He can shriek. He can bolt a creature, shriek maw away a blocker.
We'll see what Jose is able to produce.
It's gonna need to be good.
I think that what he needs is 2 Devoted Druids and to already have the Vizier.
And the payoff.
Yeah.
That would do it. Here's Collected Company. With these company decks, if the companies hit good enough, you can win from a lot of board states you have no business winning from. Sin Collector, Vizier of Remedies, Kitchen Finks, some other stuff. He's got options.
Yeah. There's a 3-card combo there that he can only take 2 parts of.
That is
Finks, Remedy, Viscera Seer.
Oh, Seer's in there too?
Yeah, but Bolt breaks that up anyway. As soon as you start it, you're just going to lose your Vizier.
Kind of makes me just want to get Kitchen Finks in here. We'll see Vizier and Seer, though. Okay. No need for Brennan to bolt anything yet. Jose draws for the turn. Draws Devoted Druid. Okay.
Wrong order.
Yeah. You company into the Druid and you cast the Vizier. Come on now.
poor sequencing.
Kitchen Finks. Okay, well, all right. Brennan's got to do something. Can't actually let this resolve because you will lose.
Can't deal infinite damage.
So you bolt, I assume, the Vizier?
Yeah.
Brennan bolts Vizier, gets an elemental. Vizier down. He's going to sack it, scry 1. Good call, good call. Scries to the bottom. Finks hits play. This will gain Jose 2 up to 11. This should keep him alive for another turn. And with these chords in hand, I'm a bit concerned on Brennan's side. It's possible he loses from here.
Yeah, and Brennan kind of had to go for the Vizier over the Seer, even though the Seer combines really well with Kitchen Finks, because if Jose just had 5th land Devoted Druid, Brennan's out of removal spells. Or does he have Shriekmaw?
Yeah, he does have Shriekmaw. I mean, Kitchen Finks, yeah.
Yeah, and that can't break up Viscera Seer, but if there was a Devoted Druid, it would have covered that anyway.
Make the really nice play. He invokes Shriekmaw in response. Jose double sacks the Kitchen Finks, and then Brennan has to shoot his own elemental token.
Okay.
Yeah, you showed him.
I guess you sacrificed your creature and scried twice.
Yeah, I like cool plays a little too much sometimes.
It's nice to know that things like that are possible. As to whether you should ever actually make those plays, that's kind of a different question.
What you're doing is you are showing your opponent your superior rules knowledge, and then you will intimidate them.
Yeah, and then he might concede the match in the pivotal game 3.
He'll say, I do not deserve this. You are too great.
Nobody with as little rules knowledge as I, compared to a rules master as you, should ever be able to win.
That's the line. Brennan, a full swing. That flare is a 4/4. We have instant sorcery creature land in the graveyard. So they'll have to block something. He's at 11. I guess he doesn't have to block something. He can just take 9 and go to 2. And then that's what he does. Here's Grim Flayer. Trigger. Top 3. Lingering Souls, Thought Season, and one other. With 2 chord, there's 2 Chord of Callings in Jose's hand. Now he can't. Yeah. He can chain them together, right? There's a line to win here if there's no removal.
He just finds Vizier, and he's set up with infinite life until Brennan breaks something up. He does need to maintain the Kitchen Finks. That's why he didn't see any blocks there.
Well, if Shriekmaw hits the Finks, then it already has the counter on it, so Vizier's not much help.
You won't be able to do it. You need to get an Anafenza in the mix, but that one, they don't play that card anymore.
Liliana, the Last Hope, will plus and shoot down the Viscera Seer. Okay, like this Brennan is... He did not have a nut, so his last land in hand is Stomping Ground. If it was a black mana source, he could just remove both creatures, but it's not.
Hitting the Seer makes sense because they rarely are going to have many copies of that. Yeah. Frequently just one, and there is only one in Jose's list.
Yeah, I would say if he top decks another Seer, he'd win here, but he doesn't have one.
Yeah.
Brennan, Shriekmaw, Stomping Ground. Not much to do here. Just hope has Jose at 2. Hopes he doesn't die.
I think he's choked on mana, but you can witness back the Seer. I don't think that's going to be possible this game in a meaningful way.
On Brennan. Let's see what if there's a line here. I expect Jose knows it. Let's see what it is. Draws. Not a great look.
It was Fatal Push.
Oh.
That's not going to play.
Well, hey, we brought it in for Grimflayer and Young Pyromancer.
We found our targets.
And they're both there.
Got our targets.
Okay, I see why you didn't want to board it in.
Just like we drew it up.
Your argument appears to be valid.
Yeah.
You see Jose thinking here, okay, he can get a 2 or a 1. And then he has another one left. Devoted Druid. No way to give it haste.
Yeah, this is not the Hall of the Bandit Lord built to the deck. Jose also had 2 life. Yeah, can't afford that.
So it makes Druid and passes with 2 chords in hand. And I don't know if he can survive this turn, Ryan. I'd be pretty surprised.
Not looking promising. And if Brennan really wants to push his advantage, just Liliana back a Bloodbraid Elf.
I have so many Bloodbraid squares left on my bingo card. I only have 6 squares unchecked, and they're all Bloodbraid Elf.
Okay.
No, wait, 7. There's 1 that isn't. The other 6 are Bloodbraid Elf. Got all the others.
Someday you'll cross them out, buddy.
You can get like some of these still. Turn 3 Bloodbraid's live. Andrew Wolbers is in top 8 with Panza. That deck makes turn 3 Bloodbraid. You know what's going to happen? We're going to cover him in top 8, and he's going to make the Bloodbraid Elf on turn 2.
Yep.
And be like, that is so rude of you.
And pre-combat Shriekmaw, Brennan just kind of making sure he doesn't leave anything on the table here. Check all the boxes. Attacks with everybody. Fatal Push on the Grimflayer, but they're still just lethal attackers here.
They swing on Handshake. Brennan DeCandio, 4-color Pyromancer, keeps his top 8 hopes alive. 2 games to 1. He defeats Jose Martinez after a wild game 1. Brennan's go back and talk to his teammates, saying, you won't believe what happened in game 1. And then he'll be like, I won the match. It's fine. And you guys should be glad I won the match, because if I had lost, I would have been miserable all the rest of the day.
That was my favorite game of the 3 by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah. If I'd lost, a couple of friends would be like, you don't want to go to dinner with me today. Okay, it's really not. Just I'm going to be a storm cloud.
I'm quitting Magic.
Yeah.
You'll find me at the bar.
So Brennan, 11-3 now. 1 more round to go if he can win into top 8. And that's going to be it for round 14. Ryan, it's also, I want to talk about some of the people we have here. At 11-2 going into the round, we had Dylan Kirkpatrick on our backup camera, winning with Storm.